All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Today we're talking about multiplicative and additive relationships. So when we were looking at our ratio tables last week, they can increase sometimes in patterns. Well, they always increase in patterns. But identifying those patterns is either going to be additive or multiplicative relationship. So sometimes we're adding, sometimes we're multiplying in order to get the next number. So if we're looking at additive relationships, it's going to be this example, y equals x plus something, okay? So I'm adding something to my x. Remember when we would take it and we would then graph it? And I said, okay, we have our x coordinate like in the left column and then our y coordinate in the right column, and then we plot those. We turn them into a coordinate pair and we plot them. Okay, this is explaining how that relationship works. Shh. So for every y, a number is added to x in an additive relationship. For every y, a number is added to x. So words that sound like addition and subtraction, when I'm maybe seeing things in a word problem, or if I'm just talking about any kind of additive relationship, I might see things like in addition to. I might see things like more than, added, less than, and subtracted. If it's an additive relationship, I am typically adding to it, but because subtraction is in that same fact family, those are inverse operations, they are related to one another. Okay, now let's go down and look at the table. It says, look at the relationship as y increases, what happens to x? Now remember, I'm only looking at the left one. We're talking about additive. So remember, adding and subtracting are related. To get from x to y, what am I doing? 1 plus 2. X was my 1. Okay, my rule for the next one is I'm adding 2 again. So I'm adding 2 each time. So my relationship is considered additive. My rule, plus 2. What are you doing to get from x to y? I'm adding 2 each time. That is my rule, add 2. Okay, well, what about if it's multiplicative? Well, for every y, a number is multiplied to x. So instead of being added, because it's multiplicative, it is being multiplied to x. So words that sound like rate or comparison, sometimes twice as many, might be seen. Double, triple. We know that we're multiplying by 3. Sometimes divided by, because if it's multiplicative, what's the inverse operation of multiply? Divide. We could go up, instead of saying double, triple, we could say multiplied by 5 times. Or multiplied by, we could say 5 times as much. You could say 4 times as much. You could say 10 times as much. All of these are phrases or words that we might see that tell us we're dealing with a multiplicative relationship. So again, looking at that table, as y increases, what are we doing to x to get the new y? I multiplied this times 5. Is it true for 2? If x is 2, times 5 to get y. times 5 to get y, times 5 to get y. This is called a what relationship? Multiplicative. Multiplicative. And the rule is multiply by 5. Okay, we're going to do some practice in a Kahoot. So go ahead and open up your Chromebooks.